This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Keith Hanak is the Vice President for the AV Solutions Group at Panasonic, the Enterprise Solutions Company. And he handles their sales, solutions development, delivery, and recurring services. During his tenure, the AV Solutions team has delivered a number of high-profile digital signage projects for a variety of clients, and most recently for the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. Hello, Keith. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Keith, what does the Panasonic Enterprise Solutions Group company do?
We're actually, what's interesting, I know people think about Panasonic and they think about all of the products that we create. I think in simple terms, we're a systems integrator focused on both the eco and AV markets, at a high level. And I manage the AV side of that equation. But we're essentially an integrator that supports a variety of projects in a bunch of different market verticals, which is, it's not a product-focused organization.
Now, I know that your title is Vice President, but what's your role with the group? Is it principally managerial or technical?
It's really, I manage the whole AV solutions business for Panasonic, but my background and what I still enjoy doing is primarily on the solution side, so it's primarily technical.
I was reading that you and your team installed the world's largest high-definition television LED screen. What was that about?
Well, that was actually a very fun project. It's Guinness certified. It was out in Texas. And, the goal of the particular customer in this case was to have the biggest one. It turns out the viewing distances and where these screens are located relative to the stands requires something very large in order to be able to cover, an audience. I think they have upwards of 160,000 people attend the event. It's located on the backstretch, and it's a very iconic display. And if you've ever been to a race, you'll know that it does require some visual aids and some technology in order to keep track of who's where, on the course, so that you can, better follow, your particular driver. As a fan, I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, wait a minute, this is going to be a stupid question, but how long does it take to, first of all, design something like that, then install it?
Well, this one here, it was a ground up, so we started with bare earth, and it took about 8 months from start to finish. And, we built the structure. It's kind of like constructing a building. So I think obviously the footings for the sign are probably 40 feet below grade to hit bedrock, and you build it just like you would a building, and it happens to have an LED board on it.
How big is this thing?
It is 218 feet by right around 94 feet. So I think it's in the neighborhood of it's over 20,000 square feet.
I want one of those.
Where in your backyard are you going to put it?
Yeah, well,
it's very big, very bright. And what's great about it is, if you think about it, traditionally within motorsports, our the customer in this case is Speedway Motorsports. It's the Texas Motor Speedway, and they've been very progressive in terms of getting their fans involved. Typically, what you would see at a racetrack is a vertical pylon that actually has, just the order of the cars and what order they're in. And, what you can do now with replays and fan engagement and sponsors and activation and all of those things with this sort of tool is really pretty special. And, it's one of those things where when something happens, everybody stops and looks at the board. So it really changes the way fans engage at the track.
Well, I was just thinking, video people are obsessing about HD versus 2K versus 4K resolution. This has got to be a bajillion pixels across by 2 bajillion pixels high, isn't it? I mean, how do you measure the resolution of something like this?
Well, in this particular case, it's greater than high def. It's certainly greater than high def, and it's about 1,300 pixels by something like 26 or 2,800. It's
Wow.
very large, but because it's far enough away, obviously you don't have to have resolution like a television. So it's what I would say is it's the right amount of resolution to make it work. Certainly greater than HD. And part of the reason why that's necessary is, there's a lot of data and information that fans are interested in. So you not only have to have the video picture, you also have to integrate in the information. Social media is a big part of things that are now being monitored at the track, along with scoring and timing and placement data.
Are we just talking about just one big, huge HD television set, or is there technology that goes into this that's completely different than what we'd have in our home?
Oh, the screen itself, it's really a big monitor, and I'd say the magic behind a lot of this stuff is what we're doing in the control room. It just so happens that this particular location where we built the larger screen, we also built a control room, and there's a bunch of different data elements that are integrated into the show, and we happen to work with their production staff to produce the show for them for all of their events. So there's a whole control room, and it's quite a process, and it's like you would see at any live event, a very significant operation with a technical director, production teams, audio, and so forth.
When you're putting this together, are you driving it from a single computer, or is it multiple graphics cards? How do you feed a signal to something that big?
Well, first of all, there's, as you know, at sporting events, there's a bunch of different cameras that are being deployed now. Some are actually in-house cameras. Others come from, the networks that happen to be covering those events. They have replay systems that they use to play back, special events. They also have pre-canned information like sponsors and advertising data, and then also integrating in with scoring and timing data is a big deal. And so all of those things are going on simultaneous. You're trying to find the right mix, and then there's a run of show, and a lot of these advertisers and a lot of the stuff that's done during the show is actually driven by some event that happens. So, if there's a caution flag, that's sponsored. If there's a break in the action of some sort, or change in, a change in leadership that causes some action to take place. So it's actually a lot more sophisticated than you might imagine, and very, very well thought out.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It's like broadcasting a network television show to a screen.
The thing that blows me away when you go to these sporting events, these outdoor sporting events, and you look at these giant screens that are out there in the daylight, in the sunshine, how do you deal with that sunlight? Because I can always see the image and I can see it perfectly clear.
Well, the technology now is such that you can achieve brightness levels that frankly are more than sufficient for daytime viewing, and far too bright for nighttime viewing. So what's actually happening is that at night you really have to turn it down, or you'll blind the drivers.
Wow, there's a guy turning it down. That's really cool.
Keith, I want to shift gears to a different project, one that you just completed, which is for the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. Tell me about this one.
Well, this one here was certainly a lot of fun. It was actually a very important project for Panasonic. We've just relocated our headquarters into Newark, New Jersey, and we actually sat down with the folks from the New Jersey Performing Arts Center and looked at some of the objectives that they had in terms of being able to provide better services to their customers, and came up with a whole list of actions that we mutually executed on that we think, frankly, are going to allow them to provide a lot better support to their clients, now and in the future. So a lot of that was not, it wasn't something where we came in and opened up our catalog and said, pick some parts here. Right? It was more about, frankly, in their kind of facility, it's just a spectacular location. And they've got a bunch of different spaces that are used for meetings. So the key there was connectivity and flexibility. And they obviously, we added a lot of interfaces, a lot of internal fiber, additional cameras, and we created some support packs that allow them to support multiple different locations. Obviously, signage and some of the visual elements were extremely important. And I think in the end, they're going to have a facility that better serves their customers' needs and their needs as they look to the future.
Well, it was
a very collaborative project with the folks from NJPAC.
Well, let's get specific. Tell me specifically how big the job was. What kind of gear did you put in? Was it just digital signage? What all did you install?
So we actually started off with a lot of infrastructure. So we redid a lot of the HD infrastructure, brand new cabling, a bunch of new interaction points for cameras that they would need for special events. Certainly upgraded all the cameras and all of the camera interfaces, so all the way back from control room to the key elements within the presentation areas. They had a bunch of stuff that they were doing that was temporary, temporary camera cables, temporary this, that. So the production cost for each event was very high. All of that's now permanent. And then we created what we would call these portable fly pack systems that we could move around to all of these new connection points, so that they had basically a production systems, several of them in a box, that they can move around to wherever the need was within that facility. So it was a combination of infrastructure, a lot of image capturing equipment, and then portable, purpose-built production systems that allow them to do many of the same things we just talked about at the Speedway.
Well, there's a lot of system integrators that are out there. What was it that Panasonic offered that they felt was the reasons for going with you?
Well, are there a lot, though? I mean, there's Panasonic, there's what, Mitsubishi, and maybe a couple more? I mean, there are a lot of them, or what?
So where we like to think we're a little bit different is that, we have a lot of the advantages of being a great manufacturer. So we get the advantage of the fact that we have a great toolkit to work from, which is the Panasonic product set, which is very strong in broadcast and security. And obviously, I think everybody knows about our displays. So we have that advantage. And then, I think some of the rest of it is cultural. You got to have the right folks, the right team, and the right mindset where you go in to work with, the customers, in this case, NJPAC, and in a very collaborative way. And, we're not, as I said, we weren't trying to open up the catalog and sell it. We were really trying to apply the skills that we have from an engineering and design perspective to the business problem that was in front of them. And you need to do those things within a budget and be able to provide value back to customers and be able to do that in a way that makes sense to them and obviously to our company as well. So in this particular case, it was very special because, we're new neighbors, and much of the Panasonic equipment was provided, by Panasonic at no charge. And so it was a very important project to us because now we have a nice demo site in downtown Newark, and I think they're very happy.
I can just imagine. How big a crew and how long did the installation take?
We actually, this whole process has gone on in terms of the evaluation with the city, with the folks at NJPAC for probably more than a year. Because one of the things I would tell you is the initial thought was we were going to do something that was like a production facility for a TV station. And as we dug into what the potential problems were and what their clients wanted, it turned out that where we started and where we ended up were very different. So what we ended up doing throughout the course of this is we probably went through and designed it 2 or 3 times until we got it right. And then what we ended up with, I think, is what everybody believed to be the best approach to solving the problem. And I think in the end allows us to scale and add on and meet future needs pretty gracefully from this point forward.
What was the biggest challenge in putting this together?
I think the probably one of the biggest challenges for both them and us was that, you know, our initial vision was that it was going to be something that was fairly contained. We had a kind of this initial vision that it was going to be a production facility, you know, directly in the main area where they do presentations at the Performing Arts Center, and it ended up being maybe a facility-wide enhancement in terms of the infrastructure. So it kind of grew tentacles, if you know what I'm saying. So it became pretty broad in its scope and scale and its reach in terms of the work that we did.
I was just reflecting, both at the Churchill Downs racetrack and for New Jersey, digital signage is a key part of what you're putting together. Do cinematographers or videographers need to shoot differently or expose differently to have stuff look good on digital signage, or do they just treat it like a television set?
I think it's very much dependent upon the application. So, you know, I think it depends. We've certainly had signage that's not in the typical aspect ratio, and it's kind of odd because you see cinematographers who are filming sideways on the cameras, and that's obviously always good to see. So I would say it depends on the content and the requirement that you're dealing with. But those things are generally pretty well thought through as we engage on these sorts of projects. So I think the content is, by the way, key, right? So
Sure.
all of these things that we talk about in terms of signage and display technology, it's an important element, but it's just the palette, and I think the content is what brings these things to life and keeps people interested and draws them to the display. So critically important, and the best stuff is done specifically custom for the application.
We used to have to worry with digital signage about smear and lag and just the fact that the signs couldn't keep up with fast movement. Is that a thing of the past?
I think that the refresh rates have gotten to the point where it's actually much easier. Compression technology also means that the files and the information you're moving around are further compressed, and I think it's a very manageable problem in today's world.
I want to make sure that the viewers who are watching this get a chance to look at your website, especially for the viewers here in Los Angeles. If you go to a Lakers game or a Clippers game or a Kings game, you got one of your big displays right there at the Staples Center.
Yes, and that's one that we're very proud of. I mean, that's a great venue, not just the Staples Center, but the area around there, LA Live.
You got some of your displays at LA Live too?
Absolutely. I
Wow.
mean, in fact, at LA Live, many of the displays that are out there at hanging off the JW Marriott and so forth, those are also Panasonic displays. We've done not just the video board, but the control room at Staples Center, and it's a great venue to go see an event. And that video board we called the 4HD. I think that was one of the first center hung video boards. One of the unique and distinguishing features on that is that there's displays on the underside of the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, hopefully you'll do the NFL stadium if it ever gets to LA.
Keith, where can people go on the web to learn more about you and the products your team creates?
If you happen to be on the Panasonic website, we're under Panasonic Solutions, and we have a lot of our product profiles. And obviously, while you're there, there's also a tremendous number of great products and other solutions from inside the company.
Keith, thank you. That's the Panasonic.com website. The web address is on your screen. Keith Hanak is the VP of AV Solutions at Panasonic. Keith, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Keith.